Hey, welcome back to another video. We're talking about the IDW Sonic comics again. This time we're going to talk about issue 3. It's a lot like the first two still, in that there's not really any major story going on until the last couple pages. But it's not the same exact formula of just Sonic runs in, saves a couple people, and fights a badnik, and then he has banter with one of his friends. It's still very similar to that, and again, I can see some people getting a little angry at that. The difference here is that instead of fighting badniks, now Sonic is fighting, teaming up with Knuckles to battle two brand new villains created for the IDW series, Rough and Tumble. I don't see them becoming particularly serious villains. I see them being sort of comic relief, certainly regular recurring lackeys probably, sort of like Scratch and Grounder maybe in Adventures of Sonic the Hedgehog were, but I don't see them becoming like Eggman level threats that show up all the time. They work as good comic relief villains. The joke that I think works the best with them is that they have this Team Rocket-esque roll call that Sonic finds absolutely hilarious, and because it is quite funny. They are perfectly in sync though, and when they do beat Rough and Tumble, they sort of Sonic and Knuckles sort of make fun of it, and it's quite good. They do it again when they're actually beaten at the end of the issue, and they're like, "You've made enemies of Rough and Tumble," and they say Rough and Tumble in unison. It's pretty amazing. There's not, I think the one thing that it's lacking personally in this issue is that there's not a lot of time for Knuckles and Sonic to really banter with each other, because one of the best things that comes from the comics was Sonic and Knuckles have such different personalities that when they are able to joke at each other, that leads to some of the best interactions, and there's not a lot of that in this issue. It's not a major thing, but I wish we had gotten a little bit more. As it stands, I don't see anybody who was getting into this as their first exposure to Sonic story-wise, essentially. I don't see them really getting a decent sense of Sonic and Knuckles and how they like of their relationship, or how good of friends they are. Nor do I see anybody really getting a decent idea of Knuckles as a character. You maybe get the idea that he's a bit hot-headed, a little violent, and then you learn that he guards Angel Island, but you don't get any hints of him as any deeper than that. And I'm not expecting, already this huge amount of backstory that he had in the Archie comic before the reboot, and I'm not expecting all this baggage that he has in the third issue, but there's, I think, just a lack of really anything to give Knuckles a proper introduction in this issue. I guarantee he will get more later. So I think we'll get more of Knuckles later with better establishment of his character for newcomers, and then and for returning fans. But as it stands from this issue where he's introduced, you don't really get a whole lot of him as a character. On the artwork front, we have another different artist this time. This one is Jennifer Hernandez, who I really liked her work on the Archie book when she showed up in that. Her style here is significantly different. I think it's a huge improvement, though. It sort of seems like an evolved Tracy Yardley style, almost. The thing with Tracy Yardley's art style, and this is, I think, what a lot of people don't like about it, is that it can be a little more chaotic, not quite as consistent, not always perfectly on model, I guess. It can be a little squiggly, it can be a little rough. Jennifer Hernandez's art style in this book is a lot like if Tracy Yardley's style was cleaned up and a lot more consistent, sort of like how an actual animated series would look, honestly. They look like they could be stills from a particularly high-budget cartoon series, and I think it works really, really well for the book. I think if they wanted to get one artist to stick on it for a really long time, they would have a really good choice in Jennifer Hernandez. Very bright, very expressive art style, amazing facial expressions from quite a few characters. Yeah, it's a solid art style. One thing I want to point out is in the background, in a couple of shots, you can actually see some of Jennifer Hernandez's original characters that she's posted on like Twitter and such. And I really like that she snuck them in there, because they're not like they're not shoved in your face. They're just there, and if you aren't familiar with them, then they're just other background characters. But it's a nice little thing to see if you're somebody who follows her on Twitter, or who just generally likes the designs of her original characters, and I like that she put them in there. All in all, I think it was a pretty solid issue. Like I said, I can see how a lot of people would get a little bit sick of how the book is currently going, with just essentially Sonic rolling into a town, meeting one of his friends, fighting a badnik or a villain, and then leaving. But like I said in the first video, to an extent that's necessary. You need to introduce the book to new readers, and you need to get old readers just sort of acclimated to things again. A book is not going to start off, usually anyway, with a grand storyline. It's going to start off slow. It's going to start off very low-key, very much just sort of working the things with not a whole lot going on. And that's what this is doing. I certainly understand why people would be frustrated, but personally I don't think it's that big of a deal. That's going to do it for this video. If you enjoyed, then you can subscribe and hit that bell icon, and if all goes well, YouTube will tell you when I upload a new video. But if and when they don't, then you can follow me on Twitter, where I always post when I upload a new video, and if I'm not stupid, it's also the most recent video is usually my pinned tweet on my profile. Follow me there, where I also will tweet about things that I'm reading or watching, so if you care for whatever reason, you can sort of get a sneak peek at what I might be working on in the future, or just sort of what I'm wasting my time with. So that's in the description, as is my Patreon, which is essentially just a chip jar right now. Alternatively, if you're new or you just missed some of my older stuff, then on screen right now are two of my previous videos. The one on the left is the last video I did, which was on Sonic the Hedgehog number 1 and 2, and the one on the right is whatever one YouTube wants you to watch right now. That's all for now, and I will see you guys next time.